The NFL Scouting Combine 2026 is underway in Indianapolis. Actually, all the athletic activities and proper scouting combine drills begin today. But before a single 3-cone drill, before a single leap, before a single bench press, before a single 40-yard dash, members of the New England Patriots front office brass and executives have been talking to every single available microphone, iPhone, and podcast possible. Eliot Wolf and Mike Vrabel, keep it down, guys. Actually, it's been great for all of us because we've learned so much about the past season, what they're thinking now, and what their approach to 2026 and beyond might be. So, got my old pal Mego here, Fitzy and Mego, for a 6-ring scouting combine. Talk it up, Patriots. What have we learned so far? Podcast, and it begins right now.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. It's all about winning, all right? Winning on 3. 1, 2, 3, win!
Celebrating the heroes of Foxborough's past.
And with a good block. Look at Grover. Touchdown all the way. Watch the block of number 73, John Hanna.
The champions of the dynastic era.
Adam Vinatieri booms a 48-yard field goal, and the Patriots are Super Bowl champions.
The Patriots of tomorrow.
We're going to remove entitlement from our football team. We're going to earn the right to be here every single day.
And the fans whose faith never wavers. This is 6 Rings and Football Things.
I've never really tried to get focused. If I shop at Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom or something, I've gotten to the point now in my life where if I want something, I can usually buy it. Or just if you like something, usually just try to buy it.
I apologize if there were technical difficulties during the relay of that line, but that is both mine and Mego's favorite line from Mike Vrabel's many addresses at the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. Mike Vrabel, when discussing free agency, said he's gotten to a point in his life where if he wants something, he can just go buy it. And then even name-checked of all stores. I felt like it was like the 80s again. Like, was he going to say Saks Fifth Avenue if he didn't say Neiman Marcus or Bergdorf Goodman, Mego?
Mike, Ariana Grande, Vrabel. I want it. I bought it. That's what he's telling you. I love that line from Mike Vrabel because there is so much speculation, especially when it comes to cash spending, about how this team is going to operate after they've been well above the average of what they usually do in terms of free agency cash spending over the last 2 years. If you remember, we've heard Robert Kraft in the past talk about how they think in these 3-year blocks. Mike Vrabel is saying, I want it, I bought it. That's what he's going to do.
And Robert Kraft always says his particular favorite word when discussing money, finance, and he says it his way. Everyone else says finance, but he always says finance, which I kind of love because it's very RKK.
If you have your own jet, you have to pronounce it that way. That's the rule.
Good point.
And you have to say finance, financier.
Yeah.
That's just the way. That's just the rules of being a billionaire.
You get your hats at a haberdashery. Your clothes are done by a tailor or an atelier. You know what? I should probably. Did you get? I never got a copy of the NFL Black Book last year. I also didn't get How Rich People Talk. Do you have a copy? Do you have a PDF of that you can share?
You know what? I don't readily, but I did go to GW, so I am familiar with it. You, as an NYU grad, I would think would have a little inkling of that.
Most definitely. Like when people had their private chefs come in and make them dinner while I was eating government grade hockey pucks with cheese and pickles for dinner every night. Yeah, I can attest to that as well. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest 6 Rings and Football Things. Currently streaming on a Thursday morning in late February across the WEEI and Fitzy GFY socials. Happy to have you guys, however you happen to listen to it as well, on Spotify, the Odyssey app, Apple Pods, and so much more. Today, Mego and I are just going to play a couple clips from Eliot Wolf and Mike Vrabel in their media availabilities in advance of the Scouting Combine getting underway, and then discuss what we think the plan is and what their targets of interest will be. Later on in the week, we'll also speak with our guy, Mike Dussault from Patriots.com, and actually get a report from the Scouting Combine on who looks good, what's happening, who's popping, and what's rocking. I've already seen all the social videos. I saw our friend Taylor Kyles from CLNS have his first ever shrimp cocktail at St. Elmo's. I've seen Evan Lazar and Deuce and the other guys, Mike Florio, interviewing all the coaches, sitting down, knocking out pods and whatnot. So like the media scrum portion seems to be pretty much done. And of course, we were treated to a lot of Mike Vrabel wearing a whole lot of denim. And then, of course, we had Eliot Wolf first. Mego, what were your general takeaways from what Eliot Wolf shared? Because I'll just say real quick, I thought he was rather forthright. He seems pretty comfortable in his position. And I kind of get the vibe that he's not just a coffee runner or the nerd that gets stuffed in the locker, or like a well-dressed lackey for the crafts who's always looking in on what's going on with Vrabel and Stretch and all the football bros. Like, it seems like he's the guy in charge. He's the executive vice president of player personnel, runs the scouting department, and has his finger on the pulse of who's doing what and what the Patriots want.
Yeah, Fitzy, I'd agree that he was more forthright than I was expecting, especially the way that he talked about Will Campbell and Will Campbell's injury that he suffered in week 12, and pointing to that as the reason in his mind for his play deteriorating through the playoffs. I also thought that it was pretty clear that he seems, at least at this point in the early offseason, to be in lockstep with Mike Vrabel. They both cited edge as a very clear need for this team that seems to line up with this particular draft. Mike Vrabel went on to say that he was really impressed with the volume of tight ends in this draft. So I think that's revealing, one, that I would be, once again, very surprised if Austin Hooper comes back, the 31-year-old who is a pending free agent, but also that seems to be those two positions, those area of needs, they feel line up very nicely in this draft. I think the wild card of what we're looking at with this draft, without being like Chris Scheim and a super draft head and digging into 4 different mock drafts of my own making over the next month. I don't do it.
I can't.
I love those who do, but that isn't.
God bless
it's
him,
a
but
science of itself. Like it's almost like a completely different job.
It's like when you're playing fantasy football, which you probably, hopefully, do not do. I'm not sure if you and your hubs are in any leagues, or if you and any of the other folks on the beat happen to get into a league. But when it's like mid to late July, and I have friends texting me their mocks of their fantasy football league,
Sickness.
and
You're sick people.
Exit thread, mute. Like it's a sickness. A sickness I am not particularly down with.
System of a Down. That's System of a Down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I gotta say that era of music is like a little bit of a blind spot for me, to be honest.
Same.
But what was I saying before we went on that tangent? Oh, about the mock drafts. So I think that those are two
about the mock
very
drafts and
two very real areas of need that they seem to be in lockstep with. I think the big question is going to be, how much work do they do on offensive line? And the other thing that came out of a sit down among the media who are on site there, and Miss Karen Guillen of Mass Live asked Eliot Wolf about the report that Jason La Canfora had earlier this week, that the Patriots are one of at least 2 teams, along with Kansas City, who are interested in Rasheed Walker, who is just about the most desirable left tackle who might be available once he becomes a free agent that we've seen in years. And Eliot Wolf said he's under contract with his team. That report isn't true. Just shot it down. Remains to be seen. If they had a chance at getting Rasheed Walker, I'd be like, go get Rasheed Walker, you crazy people. He's like 27 years old and he's a starting left tackle.
And he's really good. And if you have to try to figure out what to do with Will Campbell or Old Man Moses or whatnot, go ahead. Like, if he's available, you don't say no. You may have come in prepared to get a chicken Caesar salad, but when someone says, we happen to have 1 tomahawk ribeye left, would you care for it? You don't say no, I'm going to stick to my chicken Caesar salad. You go get your favorite menu item, and it's obviously something of need for the Patriots, but they're not going to do it, Mego. They're going to stick to Will Campbell. They're going to find a depth piece to add. And in free agency, my big thing, I want them to spend on a guard to put between Jared Wilson, who Mike Vrabel did discuss possibly moving to center, and Will Campbell, like a Wyatt Teller and Elijah Vera Tucker, a really big, strong, experienced guard to stabilize the rookie side of the line.
Here's one loophole that I wrote about earlier in the week, though, when I was dissecting Eliot Wolf's comments, was he and Mike Vrabel have both said Will Campbell is not moving to guard. And especially when Mike Vrabel said that a couple days after the Super Bowl, in which Will Campbell allowed 14 pressures. We all know how historically rough that was.
Yeah.
I thought it would be really weird for Mike Vrabel to say that. And even if it was what was best for the team, turn around and then move Will to guard in training camp. It would be un-Vrabel-like. But then I thought, if you bring in somebody like Rasheed Walker in free agency at left tackle, and you've got somebody who's going to be 35 years old and basically participated in maybe 50% of training camp last year, and Morgan Moses at right tackle, maybe we'll kicks over to the right side. And then technically the loophole you've allowed yourself is you didn't move him to guard.
Yeah.
Just like you promised, you just moved him over to the right side.
And maybe it'll be a little bit easier for him because we all know the hardest position to play on the offensive line is left tackle with a right-handed quarterback, right tackle with a left-handed quarterback.
And you got him over there with Onwenu, who I know some people are citing like, hey, Onwenu's contract doesn't have guaranteed money anymore. Keep an eye on him. But Onwenu was probably your most dependable offensive line player last season.
Yeah, you and I don't hand out PFF grades like they do shots of Toradol before the Super Bowl. But I would say if I had to grade him out, I would probably give Onwenu the highest grade as well. Then maybe Garrett Bradbury, but I don't think he's long for the Patriots, and that's been previously discussed here. No guaranteed money owed. You shift over Jared Wilson, you go get a guard, blah, blah, blah. And Vrabel did address that as well. I wanted to share one quick thing before we move on from Eliot Wolf and all the shopping to what Mike Vrabel has said, and he has laid out quite a bit. This was pretty fascinating to me in terms of, yes, Eliot Wolf talked about keeping Will Campbell at left tackle. Yes, he said that, the team needs to get younger and they're ahead of plans, but that doesn't mean that everything's hunky-dory. Yes, edge rusher. Yes, tight end. When he revealed this nugget from how things were going in 2024, it basically explained everything as to what a dysfunctional mess the team was.
I would say in 2024, handling some of the player discipline stuff was challenging. And you're trying your best to keep it consistent while also working with the coaching staff, so like Mike kind of took over most of that this year. So that helped a lot. That was good. I would just say, some of the non-football things that you have to deal with. I mean, it's still, I got in this game to scout, and that's kind of what I always just wanted to do. And so as you ascend, you become, you have more responsibility and people are looking to you for stuff. But really just probably the non.
Yeah. Once again, also our thanks to everyone that's actually out there in Indianapolis. That's a clip from the McShay Show on The Ringer. When Eliot Wolf said that the other day, like, wait a second, Gerard Mayo had you handling player discipline. This explains everything as to what a ragtag jazz ensemble coaching staff, everybody was in the Gerard Mayo error, if you will, Mego. Like, Eliot Wolf had to go play bad cop so Gerard Mayo could be good cop on that just complete tire fire of a team. What did you think when you heard that?
I thought that was a bit of an odd look for Eliot Wolf, to be honest, because I understand the dynamic that he's describing there, but this has not been a team without issues off the field. We are awaiting Christian Barmore's arraignment next week. Stephon Diggs was arraigned a couple weeks ago in Dedham District Court. Now, those guys are innocent until found otherwise, but the team was aware of those situations before they were made public. And with Christian Barmore in particular, he's somebody who had some disciplinary situation in 2024. If you remember this cell phone video that he put out there, and then him having to apologize for that. So I'm not saying that to criticize the way that the Patriots handle their discipline compared to 2024, because I really don't know. That's the workings inside the franchise. And I understand what Eliot Wolf is saying there. I don't know if this is the best time to be comparing those years.
Yeah, it felt like that was, to me, it felt like something he was dying to tell everybody for the longest time. And now that they had a good season and he's still with the team and he's in a more comfortable position, he just wanted, like, you guys, I just need to get this off my shoulders. Like, this has just been sitting heavy on my chest. Like, I had to do player discipline in 2024, and it was difficult enough trying to run a draft and teaching Gerard the names of all the coaches and the assistants and the player the positional coaches and everyone else and the scouts that I brought in for him. Like, that was hard. That was hard. At least Vrabel took over this. I mean, Vrabel did a good job, but Diggs and Barmore are not going to be without issue.
It should be, in my opinion, a head coach's a huge part of his job, because you're the culture setter. And so you're the one who ultimately needs to hold staff and players accountable. Like, I totally agree with that. I just thought it was odd to say that now, especially as as we talked about last week in a podcast when we talked about the biggest storylines of the offseason, one of the biggest storylines is these court cases.
The lingering potential disciplinary or legal issues of Christian Barmore and Stephon Diggs,
And something that Eliot Wolf and Mike Vrabel have both had to address in their media availabilities at the Combine. Again, this is not stuff that is unique to the Patriots as an organization. NFL teams, you got 90 guys on the roster in one way or another with the practice squad. It's a huge amount of people. And like Mike Vrabel told us last year before the season started, everybody's not going to be a Boy Scout. I found that a little odd.
Yeah. Well, Eliot Wolf here to stay. Exactly where he as EVP of player personnel fits into that draft and or executive roster management hierarchy and structure with Stretch and Cowden and Vrabel sort of remains to be seen, but he's here for a while to come. So if that's a fancy lanyard for head scout, fine by me, because like they had an excellent draft in 2025. They had a terrible draft in 2024, except some people say you can't call it a terrible draft because you landed your franchise quarterback. But to me, he sort of fell into their lap. And after that, it was one Polk after a Baker, after a Layden Robinson, after a Marcellus Dial that led to a whole lot of nothing. Patriots do need to get younger, though, and they need to improve a lot of different positions on the field. One of those, while we do realize, Mego, that edge and tight end are probably the greatest needs, or some of the greatest needs that they're looking to scout out. Wide receiver, we keep talking about, will they get a wide receiver one? Mike Vrabel, like we said, spoke to a million different people. A.J. Brown has been on the mind. He spoke of their relationship. They text each other. He loves the guy. But he's got some wide receivers on the roster already who he could look to bump up a little bit, one of which is now second-year wide receiver Kyle Williams. Vrabel, when speaking to our friends at Patriots.com, discussed the potential of Kyle Williams elevating one day to wide receiver one.
I really enjoyed, just our relationship.
Once again, that is the wrong clip. Here's Mike Vrabel talking Kyle.
Wow, producer Fitzy is having a day.
Oh, man, he's having a day and a half. Hold on. All right, here we go. Here's Kyle Williams' clip. All right.
Well, I'm not going to, say that. I just know that I'm excited about seeing where he goes from year one to year two. It's a fantastic place. The ability to adjust down the field and on a deep ball. It's got really good release skills. You saw what the crossing route was against Tampa Bay and his ability to, create an X play that was a maybe 10 or 12 yard pass. So, I'm not going to sit there and say like, oh, these guys, it's going to be the number one receiver, edge rusher. Like, we're just excited that he's with us and what he showed us, and his attitude was fantastic. And we'll have to help him get to reach his potential.
So what do you think? Kyle Williams, how much more target share, how much more volume, how much more work do you think he gets in year two if he puts in the work like he did last year? Because you and I remember we called him the timeline king for a while because everything we read about him was so uber positive, yet 10 receptions, couple hundred yards, 3 touchdowns in his rookie year.
Seeing the development of somebody like Kayshon Boutte, who is a different type of receiver in a different scenario, I want to exercise more patience with Kyle Williams than maybe some others are willing to, because he didn't have, say, like a Lad McConkey type rookie season in terms of his stats. There's so much to like about Kyle Williams. He is the deep ball threat that you need to pair with Drake May. He has such incredible speed. And I couldn't agree more with what Mike Vrabel said there about his attitude. And maybe I'm just a sucker for this because Kyle Williams is one of the people in the locker room who, if you're having kind of a shitty day, you can go over and talk to him and you just feel better. Like from a selfish perspective, he's one of those, he's not like he doesn't go the full Pop Douglas, but he seems to come in on the same level every day. And he has been ready for the moments when Drake looks to him. And I think that is something that we kind of underrate, because Drake had a room of wide receivers where he spread the ball out so much. He had 3 games in the middle of the season where he had 3 different pass catchers. I know one was Matt Collins and one was Hunter Henry. I can't remember who the third one was. 3 different pass catchers who had 100-yard performances. So as unselfish as these guys were, it was like your turn, your turn, your turn. And Kyle Williams was kind of a lower guy on the totem pole whose turn just came, a lot more sparingly. But I'm willing to exercise patience.
Yeah. See, I think he's going to get a chance to step up and show out a little bit more in his second year as well. They talk about the second year leap and the second year jump for wide receivers in the NFL. He's getting a grasp of the pro game as well. Probably learned a lot from Steph Diggs, looking for his opportunity. It's weird because there was a wide receiver one that was Steph Diggs, but there was no target monster. There was no dominant alpha per se, but there were a lot of mouths to feed. You got two tight ends, one of which obviously had a lot of targets and a lot of catches, maybe his best year as a pro. But then you've got Mac Hollins, Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte. He only had, 46 targets, 33 catches, 5 touchdowns. He could be also coming up for a contract sometime soon. Pop Douglas hasn't been approached about a contract yet, but he wants to stick around. We'll see where that goes. Kyle Williams' day is coming, but do you expect them to try to upgrade or improve via the draft or free agency at the receiver position? Because I'm with you. I think tight end and giving him an Isaiah Likely and maybe drafting a prospect or yep. I love it when the machine just decides to kick you out for a minute and I'm the one who's talking. That I didn't touch anybody. That was a ghost in the machine. It happens like once a pod. I still think tight end's the bigger priority in free agency and the draft as well. But how do you expect them to possibly address that?
I really do think it could go either way at this juncture. I just would caution that wide receiver, like as much as Vrabel talks about how much he loves and respects AJ Brown, and it seems to be mutual, I again say, like, don't hold your breath on that over the next couple months, because the financial implications of anything before June 1st do not make sense for Philadelphia. And I know that's the name that everybody's looking at.
It's not happening.
Everybody is also looking at Alec Pierce, saying, is he going to get franchise tagged by the Colts? Is he going to be a free agent? Is that somebody who you pair with Drake May?
Mm-hmm. I think he gets tagged, honestly.
I think what's interesting about some of these guys is the point where they're potentially either a trade or like with Edge. I don't think they're going to do this, but you can throw Max Crosby in there. Max Crosby and AJ Brown are both going to be 29 to start the season. And you run a real risk. I heard our friends Phil Perry and Tommy Curran talking about this on Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. And they were talking about the real risk of continuing to try to replicate what the Washington Commanders did. Washington Commanders, when they brought in Jaden Daniels, they went out in this free agency and they brought in all these guys that they were very familiar with character-wise, who were proven pros, but not all pro for the most part, brought them in and said, we're going to fill out, patch here and there, and we're going to have a much stronger team that can compete around Jaden Daniels. And it worked for a season really well. Jaden Daniels had a lot of injuries, obviously, this year, but that team got old so quickly. They were the oldest team in the league going into the year last year.
Yeah, they tried to that whole plan of like, hey, wow, we found gold, all this success from 2024. Let's get some veterans and fortify the ranks and try to make a Super Bowl push. Like,
I would just caution this, because like all of last year's free agency class is not built the same. But on average right now, going into January or around January, your Patriots roster before this offseason was about average age. Your free agency class from last year, the 11 guys who were all major contributors, including Josh Dobbs as a backup QB, your average age going into this season of that class is going to be slightly over 30 years old. And as I cited before, you have somebody like Morgan Moses, who's going to be 35.
Oh my God.
You have somebody like
50 in the end.
I mean, like, I'm dead at that point. You have Mac Hollins, who's 32. You have Stephon Diggs, who's going to be 33. You have Garrett Bradbury, who's going to be 31. Like, I'm not saying that those guys can't be major contributors, but if you're looking at what they're going to do in terms of the roster, Mike Vrabel told you that they want to look to get younger and they want to look to get cheaper where they can. And I would buy that, because you don't want to go down the road of all of a sudden you're in joint practices with a team like the Patriots and you look like you're moving in molasses because you got old real quick.
Right. No, Vrabel discussed how they need to upgrade a lot of positions, even though they're a team that went to the Super Bowl. It's not that they're fool's gold. It's just that they were able to surprise a lot of people. But now there's a book out on everyone, every positional group, all the players, the defense, the offense, everything. Whether it's Terrell Williams and what he does, Zach Corr's defense, Josh McDaniels and his spiritually revitalized offense, all of it. So they have a ton of work to do. He even said yesterday at his first availability, they're going to be looking for more unique and creative ideas as to how to improve this team. That's great. I love the fact that he's an open mind. He also, won a ton of points with people when he talked about the priority of family time and making sure guys go get that now, because once they come back in April, the grind begins anew. He even spent more time, Mego, and I'm sure you and I, as advocates for this, probably appreciated the depth of which he discussed the prioritization of mental health and making sure, like, he walks by guys, he checks in with every guy every day. I love the fact that he takes time out of his day to check in with everyone every day. And he said, if you walk by a guy and you're used to seeing a face or hearing a hello a certain way, and then if it doesn't go that way when you say hello, you go back and you go, that's not the way this usually goes. What's up? Like, the fact that he takes the time, like, how people could never consider overextending themselves and going the extra mile to play for this guy, or like hit harder, lift more often, or whatever it is you could do. Like, I'm just so damn impressed by everything Vrabel does and everything he says. So before they even click the stopwatch once, before they have their next meeting over a fancy steak and begin their legal tampering, I'll say it, in Vrabel I trust completely.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to assume that the culture and the trust that he established with that locker room is going to carry over into the next season. I don't see how it doesn't, for many of the reasons that you described. I do think that he is trying to keep in mind, he said there's going to be difficult decisions to be made, that some of the guys who were big character parts of this locker room may not be here next year. And we've talked about them, and some of them are from the free agent class that you just brought in.
Mhm.
Like that, I think that's going to be a difficult balance to strike. And that's where you have to lean on hope that your quarterback, your tackle as he is today, and Will Campbell, these younger guys are really building out a core of the team that you can depend on to carry that culture, no matter, who's coming in on 3-year or 6-year contracts.
Yeah, there's a couple free agents who could make their way, who Eliot Wolf has said obviously have earned the right. Jalen Hawkins could depart, could get paid, or dare I say overpaid somewhere else. He's a great fit on the Patriots. I hope that I hope they can retain him for one more year, or perhaps two, depending on what his market is and what his ask is. But I think he's a great fit there. So, add safety to the pile of positions where you could use a little youngification. One position I think that they're pretty good at for now, and obviously someone who's a pivotal part of that core, though he's a bit more of the shy, quiet, demure side of things in the locker room with that great culture, is Christian Gonzalez. And Mike Vrabel did speak of a want to extend him, but more so what their relationship is like, because we don't hear a lot of it from Gonzo. So take a listen.
I really enjoyed, just our relationship, and how I had to put some time into it. And again, there's a lot of trust that goes along with certain guys, and watched him continue to get better and improve as the season wore on. And, said that I asked him if he wanted to be a captain, and it's something that he strives to be. And I want to help him try to get there, to use his ability and his instincts and his knowledge to help the team, help the guys next to him.
So to me, that's the very Mike Vrabel way of saying, okay, it's your time to start speaking up and being like, you've completed 3 years. You're obviously one of the best players on this team. You're one of the best at your position in the league, and we're pretty soon to pay you like that. So, and he didn't call him out there. That's more just like, it's all these attaboys that Vrabel gives guys that are really impressive.
Yeah, this is something that Vrabel talked about a decent amount towards the end of the regular season. He said during the Baltimore game around that time, he saw a very marked shift in Christian Gonzalez. And he wouldn't really explain what that meant on the field. To me, I took it as like, he just seems more locked in. He seems more aggressive. because that's how it looked in games to me. We've talked about this. I think about the Giants game when he absolutely ragdolled some guy.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
was like, what? Christian Gonzalez?
Young man.
I did not know that you had that in your bag. But I kind of think that that's what he's speaking to. Is Christian ever going to be a rah-rah guy? No. It would probably
Drake's
be
your
it'd be
quarterback
so
isn't even a rah-rah guy, Mego.
somebody's got to grow into the rah-rah guy when Stephon Diggs eventually leaves this team, and we're going to have to figure out who that's going to be. Maybe that man is not in the locker room yet, but I think it's for Gonzalez, I maintain there's different ways to be a leader. If you can be a leader in the way that you show up every day and the standard that you're setting with your play, I believe that that's a real thing. I don't expect him to ever be a vocal leader.
No.
He's not a vocal guy.
Now he gives you like that 12, 15-second soundbite, like, yeah, they got some good receivers, but I saw him in college. We'll be okay. I'm looking forward to the matchup. Okay, Christian, thanks. You would know best. You're in the locker room. You talk to these guys. You love going to the Ultimate Care Bear, Pop Douglas. You've told me who's giving you a hard time. Who's your favorite soundbite to go to? Like Gonzo is just Gonzo's. Good point, Jeff Stenberg. Always one of our favorites in the chat. I thought Robert Spillane did a good job of being a vocal guy. I'll tell you honestly, I love hearing from Spillane. I think he's just so damn frank. And that forthright nature of his is one of the many reasons why Vrabel brought him in. And we've discussed, and we're wrapping here. I also think linebacker, sneaky need to get a little quicker and younger.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Harold Landry, Robert Spillane. These were guys who both dealt with injuries at critical moments in the season. One more name I'd throw out there is somebody to watch in terms of being that guy in the locker room.
Ooh, great point. Sorry about that. David Stone, great point. Gonzo is the new generation's version of Gilmore. He's a quiet assassin. Well said.
He's gotten that comparison.
Yeah.
I still think it's early, but Craig Woodson.
Yes.
Craig Woodson, just coming out of his rookie year, had a fantastic playoff stretch. Seems to demonstrate great maturity, grew so much. And Devin McCourty gave him a shout out on Twitter towards the end of the season saying, this is a guy who plays and acts like a 10-year vet. That's somebody who I would keep an eye on in the secondary.
And we have a question from Andrew Dickinson, who's watching offshore as we wrap up the latest 6 Rings of Football things. Are running backs a locked position? The answer is no. You'll have Ramondre one more year, probably, maybe 2. You'll have Travion Henderson, Fasho, and hopefully we'll see some growths and strides from him in his second year. But now that Antonio Gibson's been cut because there was no guaranteed money and he's still recovering from the ACL, I don't know if they bring him back or not. If he's healthy, probably not. But you need to add a running back or a special teamer, most especially, I think, a third back that can catch passes, potentially hit it between the tackles, but maybe return kickoffs as well. Because once Gibson went down with the ACL, they suffered significantly there. So, all right, we've discussed what you do with the line. Are they going to grab offensive line depth? We love that Mike Vrabel prioritizes mental health. He texts A.J. Brown. He's probably not going to get him. They have to lift more. They need to be young and cheap. What an awkward look for Eliot Wolf. Yes, we need to keep our eyes on the tight ends and the edges, and by and large, in Vrabel we trust. Oh, wait a second. Good point, Nick Chester. We forgot. We still have Lan Larison on the roster. Yes, that's right.
Yes, you do.
Yes, we have
Diet
Burkhead. That's right. The guy that looks like a magician, Lan Larison. All right, we're all set. Yeah, running backs locked then. Okay. Once again, everyone, she is our combine queen, the living legend of @Megan_Ottolini. You can hear her on the weekends at WEEI, and of course, read all of her work at weei.com. What are you going to be writing about next?
So I do believe I'm going to be diving into last year's free agency class. And unfortunately, maybe they can get some version of that movie, The Substance, where they can age backwards. That's how that works with Demi Moore, right?
Yes.
I never actually saw it because I don't do well with body horror. And I heard it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. And the fact also right here, this guy right here, massive appreciation for you fusing Oscar season and the New England Patriots into a column.
Why?
Well done.
Why are the Oscars at Easter? I feel like the Oscars have gotten pushed back so insanely late.
I know they're in the middle of March. It's almost like 1 year Mardi Gras is in early February. The next year it's in like late March, and you're like, what the hell? And Easter gets moved around. I know the Oscars should always just be like the first Sunday of March or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure most of the audience is like, we don't care about the Oscars.
Well, we care about it. So
well, we
shut
do.
up.
Yeah.
You'll listen to us. We have the microphones.
Exactly. All right, folks. Thanks for watching and listening, as always, to the latest Six Rings in football things. Mego and I will be back next week after the Combine to review who the Patriots discussed, who they took meetings with, who are our crushes coming out of the Combine, and what we think is next for the Patriots. I'll hopefully have that conversation with Mike Dussault from Indianapolis for you tomorrow as well. In the interim, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Mego, have a great weekend. Always love chatting with you. Everyone else, have a good one. Stay warm, be well, drink up. God bless. And as always, Mego?
I guess you can say go Pats.